Okay, looks like we've got a good amount of people who have joined the webinar, so I'll get started. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on Viewpoint by Verlata. We've captioned it as making your data dance, and hopefully through this webinar, I'll show you how that can actually happen. We're partnering with Actionstep. Obviously, a lot of our data comes from Actionstep and draws through into Viewpoint itself. So in this webinar, I'm going to go through some brief slides just to give you some information about us at Verlata, as well as the Viewpoint suite and how it's set up. And then I'm going to give you a demonstration of the reporting suite itself, including the dashboards, the reports, and we'll finish up with some custom reporting that we can also do for those clients who are interested in that. At the end of the session, I will go through some pricing as well, and we also have a deal for those who are attending the webinar on the Viewpoint subscription. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat. We do have Rose at Actionstep who will be monitoring some of your questions, and hopefully we'll be able to answer them. If not, I will answer your questions when we get to the end of the session, particularly those related directly to Viewpoint. If I'm unable to get through your questions, I'll make sure to email them the answers to you separately. So just very quickly about me. I'm a product manager at Verlata, so I manage the Viewpoint reporting suite product. I've had over 10 years of experience in law firms in a number of different roles, and I'm currently also a Power BI consultant and developer. And along with some members of my team, Steve Pickering and Rabina May, we've developed the Viewpoint reporting suite at Verlata, which I'll be presenting to you today. So a little bit about Verlata. We are a platinum partner with Actionstep and have been for the past 7 years. We are a service provider that does implementations, including the entire process from start to finish for your Actionstep product projects. And in addition, we also handle reporting. So we are also a local Actionstep team in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and Singapore. And our team has actually grown dramatically over the past few years. We're now up to 40 staff spread across the 4 jurisdictions. And the vast majority of our team have worked in law firms, so we understand how things work over there. And Viewpoint itself, as I said, was developed completely in-house by our Power BI team. It is a subscription model, but we have a one-fits-all model where all of your pricing is encompassed in that subscription fee. And once you have Viewpoint set up, we can also discuss how we can set up some custom reporting or make some amendments and look at even some other data sources. So Viewpoint itself is a business intelligence reporting suite. It's considered an interactive set of reports. Power BI, it's built on Power BI, which is a Microsoft product and quite a dynamic and flexible suite software in itself. And it's designed to give you sort of a big bird's eye view of your firm and how all of your financials are operating. But it also then allows you to deep dive into those data points. So you can drill through into individual pieces of data, including invoices, time entries, all sorts of things coming out of Actionstep, and also use some complex filtering to get exactly the metrics that you actually are looking for. And of course, as I said, all the data is drawn from Actionstep, and we can include things like custom data collections if need be, although not in standard Viewpoint setups. But we can also discuss how we can best meet the way in which your firm works. And above all, Viewpoint is a visual suite, so it's designed not to just be in tabular formats, but we've also got all sorts of different graphs and ways of discovering how your data interacts with other data points. So why would you go for Viewpoint? Well, we have built, as I said, we've built it in-house, and the reports have actually been created based on all of our clients' needs and feedback. So we are constantly improving it and updating it based on our client feedback. This could be a filter here, a filter there. It could be a whole new visual or even a whole new report. And all of our reports are stored in the cloud, so you can actually access them from any device. And they're all part of Power BI. So once you have a Power BI account and license set up, you can access them from anywhere. We make sure that Viewpoint is fully transparent in how we calculate all of our measures. And if the calculation doesn't meet exactly what you're after, we can look at customizing those calculations to apply an additional filter, to change a relationship, to add a different data metric if need be. And we'll work with you to do that. So part of the setup processes, we do have a couple of meetings with you to discuss how you actually calculate those things like KPIs, budgets, custom data, other sorts of metrics, and how we can best make Viewpoint work for you. Above all, the main feedback we get from our clients about Viewpoint is that it saves time. Particularly for the finance team, for your management, in terms of collating data in Excel, which is the usual place, but also being able to bring through all that data in an easily digestible piece, and using filters and drill throughs to properly analyze that data rather than having to do lots of different collation from different places. So just a little brief background on how we get the data. So basically, we run a job where we grab all of the data tables out of Actionstep overnight. That refreshes our Verlata hosted database in Azure, which then refreshes our reports in Power BI. So it is an overnight update. It's not a completely live feed, but of course, if you wanted the live data, you can obviously go to Actionstep itself on that day. All right, so let's dive into a demo. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can all see my screen there. I've currently got Power BI and a number of Actionstep tabs open. I'm going to be going through them as we go. But what you're seeing straight away here is a dashboard. So Viewpoint contains a number of dashboards. These are customizable. And the idea behind them is that we can grab visuals from different reports in the suite, bring them together into one place, and you can then see a snapshot of your data of all different types of metrics. So in this case, I've grabbed a little bit of everything from all the different reports. So you can see here we have WIP, we have fees, we have budgets, fee collections or fees paid, we have practice areas, debtors or AR, we have write-offs, value of time, we've got all of your new matters, new clients, closed matters, aged debtor and aged WIP groupings, and some groupings by different categories like matter type or practice area. And so as I said, this is a customizable dashboard, but we do present you with a couple of standard ones. This one in particular is an overview of the current financial year, so you can see all of your data in one place. These dashboards are also connected to the reports that they come from. So if I wanted to actually go directly to the report that this came from, I can click on a visual. So for example, I've got my aged WIP totals here. I can click on that and it'll actually take me to the report that this visual has come from. Now, in terms of our subscription packages, you can take anywhere from 7 to 16 reports. So what's available to go on the dashboard will obviously depend on which reports you select. I'm going to be going through some of the reports one by one just to give you an idea of what kind of data and some of the different features that are available in Power BI and Viewpoint itself. So as I said, Power BI is a browser base, so you can see I've accessed this from a link, and so you would just send out a link to any users that you wanted to access it. The only requirement being that they need to have a Power BI Pro license, and I'll cover that in a bit more detail later on. But that allows them to log into Power BI and access the reports. So you can see here we've got a new clients report. In this report, all of our reports are designed to have some standard filters down the left-hand side, as well as visuals that all connect to each other in some way. So in this case, what we're looking at is all the new clients that you've onboarded and the first matters that have been opened for those clients. This is essentially where we're getting the date from. It's the first matter that's open for a client. And so you can see we've got some graphs, some visuals, and we've also got a table in this page. And all of the visuals themselves are connected to each other. So if I click on this commercial litigation bar here, it actually soft filters all of the visuals on my page. So you can see here we've got, here's the 9 matters. In more detail, we can see when they were created. We can see who they're assigned to. So that's a soft filter. You also have what we call more of a hard filter. So over to the left here, we can apply a filter on a particular date range, whatever that may be. May is not a good month, April. So you can see, which clients were actually created in April, or a matter type. So you could select a particular matter type that's available here. See if I've got one here, conveyancing. I'll go child support, no. Commercial litigation. There we go. So you've got commercial litigation. You've got nine options there available. So you can see these are sort of your hard filters. And all of your filters can be reset or cleared when need be. And you can also clear all of your filters in one go. So you've got a bit of flexibility there. We've also got all of our reports also have an About This Report page. So this is explaining what definitions, what sort of key terms are used within the report and what they mean. Because sometimes, your perception of certain data points might not be the same as somebody else's. So we've tried to explain what terms we were actually using here and what calculations are actually used within the report itself. We also explain what kind of features. So in this case, this one just has slices available, so it explains how they are used. So that's your new clients report. Then going through the reports quickly, we've got our new matters report. So this report looks obviously at all of your new matters and is created and linked to the creation date for the matter itself. And we can see here we've got our table. Other than that, it's very similar to the new clients report. One key difference is that we've actually got a direct link from this report to Actionstep via the Action ID. So if I were to select, Subway Australia here, for example, I'm just highlighting that. And then I've got this Actionstep icon up in the top left. So if I click on that, it's actually going to take me directly to that matter, that action in Actionstep. And you can see I can then go and interact with that action itself. The only requirement here, of course, is that you have logged into Actionstep. Otherwise, it will ask you to log in. So that's a little link that we've got there. And other features include focus mode. So for example, I've got this visual here. It's quite small. I might want to expand that out to see it a bit more detail. So I can apply focus mode and it's actually going to full screen the visual for me. And so I can now see that in a bit more detail. And I can go back to my report. Obviously, all of your filters down there as well. Closed matters, again, similar to new matters and new clients, but we're focused on the closed matter date. For those who use estimates or the amount quoted, so if you're unaware of where that is, I'm just going to go into a matter here, go to the billing section, and then in the matter billing options, you have a fee estimate or an estimate amount there. And so what we do is we actually grab that estimate amount and we bring that through into this report. And then what we do is we calculate the outstanding WIP balance, the current fees billed on that action, and then we calculate whether or not you're above or below your initial quote. So in this case, we have gone above that, so that could be a little bit of an issue that we need to resolve with the client, but at least you can track all of that within this report. We also included overestimates, so you can just see where you've gone over and you've got a little bit of, issues, a little bit of issues to resolve. Matter status is an open matter report, so it's all about what's going on within your system or how many matters you currently have open. It's really good for managing your entire system and looking at where you may want to close matters or review where a matter is up to. So this gives me a little bit of a summary of where my matters are. I can see how many matters I have open. So you can see in our test system, we are generally increasing our matter count. That applies to most clients, we find, after they've set up Actionstep. But yours may be a little bit more up and down if you are opening and closing matters regularly. And then we also have a matter activity. So what this allows me to look at is all of the matters that I have opened and how active they are. So we've got some sort of aged groupings based on a last activity date. And so what I can do here is I can say, well, Megan here has six matters that haven't had any activity for 120 plus days. All right, so I want to know what those matters are, and I want to be able to do something about it. So I can actually right click, and here's another feature of Power BI, which is throughout our Viewpoint suite. I'm going to right click on the visual here, select drill through to my matter detail, and then I've got a list of those 6 matters there. And so the drill throughs are throughout it. I'll show you a couple more drill throughs as we go through the reports, but what this allows me to do is to go through to a table with more detail about whatever metric I'm looking at. And it will apply any filters that I have applied as well. So if I've applied some filters in my initial report, like a date range, and assigned to a matter type, it's going to retain those when I go to my drill through. And then so you can see that in the table. And then what I could do here is that I want to go, okay, Megan needs to look at this list of matters and review them and decide, okay, this one here, it's been 1,500 days since it was opened, since there was any activity, I think it might need to be closed. So what I can do is actually export this data into Excel. And so I could export it into Excel, send it over to Megan, and she can work out what's going on with those matters. If Megan had access to Power BI herself, she could obviously come in here and manage it herself. But if you wanted to retain access only to certain few within management or partnership, you can obviously then share it using that export function. So there's your 5 matter-related reports. In terms of time recording, we have 2 key reports that we look at: a time recording overview. Now this is looking mostly at a monthly and yearly basis, because what we're doing is we're looking at the billable hours that have been recorded against the billable hour budget. And so for those who use the Actionstep KPIs, so for your information, you go to accounting, you have to have the accounting module enabled, but if you go to accounting, accounts, and KPIs, it'll take you to this page here. We do have a video available on how to set these up, which we'd be happy to share. But if you haven't set them up, you go through and you can add in actual hours, billable hours, and sales budgets for all of your fee earners or timekeepers. And then these will actually flow through into the Viewpoint suite in the different reports where we're relevant. So in this case, we're drawing through the billable hour budget on a monthly basis, and then these have been calculated and added up into a yearly budget. What we can then do is calculate things like utilization rates. We can look at the makeup of billable and non-billable hours that have been recorded. We can then break it down by the actual billing behavior on the time cards themselves. So for those who use bill, hide, no charge in different ways, we can actually see that breakdown across all of your time cards. And then within this report as well, we also have a time card status drop down. And so what this allows me to do is say, okay, for this time period that I've selected, how many of these billable hours have been invoiced and how many are still sitting in WIP. So I've currently got 12 hours still sitting in WIP and 382 hours have been invoiced from the time period that I've selected, which a few years ago, but gave me some good data, so that's why I brought that through. So this report itself has quite a few pages available. A lot of our reports, more complex report, fees billed, time recording, write-offs, things like that, will have multiple pages so that you can look at your data in different ways. So in this case, the time recording overview shows, productivity, so that you can look at your productivity by month, by timekeeper, and you can see how everybody's performing individually or together across each month. And we've also got client and matter breakdowns. So for most of our reports, we try to look at it from a fee earner, timekeeper, person level, and also from a client and matter level. And so we try and break those two apart so that you can see them in different ways. In this case, we've got all of our matters within the system. We've got the actual hours, the billable hours, and the billable amount for all of those. This one also has drill throughs as well available, so I can drill through to a list of all of the time entries for that actual client. So I can see there's all my time entries. I can see the invoices that they ended up on if they were invoiced as well. And so it's retained all of those filters. We also have a daily time recording. So this is sort of an expansion on the timesheet summary in Actionstep. And the idea behind it is that we can add things like conditional formatting, so you can see when people are meeting their budgets. So one thing that is different from the timesheet summary is the ability to bring in your budgets or KPIs. And so we can see here we've got the actuals, the billables against the budget, and we've added that conditional formatting in there. So you can see whether or not people are meeting those budgets. And this is at a daily and weekly level as opposed to the previous report, which was mostly at a monthly or yearly level. From a WIP perspective, we've got your WIP analysis, which looks at your total WIP balance, aged groupings, breaking it down by your timekeeper and your aged groupings, or breaking it down and seeing where all your WIP is sitting in terms of your actual clients or matters. We also include a full WIP detail page where you can see for every client and matter, we can see where all their WIP is sitting and how old it is. From a WIP point in time is a variation on the WIP analysis. The idea being with this report is that you can select and see what your WIP was at the end of each month. And so we kind of basically fix the WIP at the end of each month. And so I can see for, January 2023, my WIP was 151K, but in December, it was 148. So I can see what it was at the end of each month. And that allows us to do things like a WIP movement report so that you can see, how you were generating WIP. This one's also been broken down into aged groupings. So I can see these grays, which are 120 plus days. So we're retaining some pretty old WIP month to month that we probably should be cleaning up. And for some cases, our WIP is getting a bit older and older. Obviously, we cleared fair bit of WIP there, or it got older within that report. And finally, WIP fees and disbursements just brings in the unbilled disbursements into the WIP report as well. So similar to the way Actionstep does it, so that you can see your outstanding disbursement balances as well as your outstanding WIP balances. Fees and invoicing. So we have a fees billed report, by far our probably most used report in the Viewpoint suite. And in this, we're bringing through the KPIs from Actionstep. So rather than the billable hours, we're bringing through the sales budget. And you can see here that we put that into these gauges so you can see how you're performing against budget for the month and the year. And you can see how each individual fee earner is also performing against their budgets for the time period selected. And then you've got sort of a percentage of budget calculation there as well. And so that's your fee earner side. The filters include things like being able to go down to who the assigned to on the matters are. So we can see for the fee earners that I've got selected, how much work are they doing on each matter? Or I can select individual fee earners. So I have a few selected individually because I've got better data for those, but you can obviously select all or select particular fee earners. So just by holding down control, I can select an additional fee earner to add to my filter. We've also got the ability to separate out or include or exclude things like credit notes, so that if you wanted to look at budgets excluding or including credit notes, you can do that. And of course, with the fees billed, we also have your matter breakdown, so you can see it by every single matter, the fees billed, the fees paid, and you can see who are your top 20 clients who you're billing to. Lots of filters there. Quite a few more ways of looking at your data. We include a list of credit notes, a list of draft invoices. We include a fee earner allocation summary, so you can see each individual fee allocation on every single invoice. And so I can see for every single invoice that I've sent, who's being allocated that data. And that's essentially where we're getting the data and bringing that through into that report, is that fee earner allocation table. Disbursement detail, literally just a list of all of your billed or unbilled, or the disbursements or paid or unpaid disbursements. So it's we include lots of different statuses so you can see your disbursements in one place. And we've got a full disbursement detail so you can see each individual disbursement. You can see how old it is, if it was invoiced, when it was invoiced, if it was paid, when it was paid, etc. Fees collected, similar to the fees billed report, except we're looking at collections. And what we do is we usually compare the fees collected versus the fees billed, so you can see how much you've collected there. And then we do that on a sort of a month by month basis as well. We also look at where all of the outstanding sort of debt is sitting, or who's collecting the most in terms of their matters as well. So that's your fee collection. Again, lots of different ways of looking at that data. And then on the other side, we look at your outstanding debt, so your debtors analysis. Quite a lot of debt sitting there. Most of it's old, but you can see there we've got a breakdown by your responsible fee earner, so whoever is responsible for the matter itself, and where your top 10 debtors are in terms of client. Same as with the WIP report, we also have a debtors point in time report. And so this one goes through your debt at the end of each month. So you can see how quickly you're collecting. So in this case, we obviously build a lot in March 2018, and then we haven't actually been paid for a while, so probably worth having a look at and following up on that debt. Finally, in the Viewpoint Suite, the 16th report is the write-offs report. Write-offs is something that's a little bit difficult to do in Actionstep, so it is one of our most frequently requested reports, and so we've included it in the Viewpoint Suite. You can see here that what we do is we calculate the fees billed on each invoice against the WIP entered on that invoice, and then that allows us to calculate a write-off for that invoice. But there are a few other ways of doing these calculations, so we include full invoice write-offs in here as well. And we also include written down time cards where there's a difference between the billable hours and the actual hours on a particular time card, so you can see where that is occurring as well. We do break down write-offs by write-ups and write-downs so that you can see them separately. So I can see where I've written up, who's writing up, where I'm writing up on clients, and where I'm actually writing down some of my fees. So that's the 16 reports in the Viewpoint Suite. And so I'll go through pricing and how the packages are made up towards the end. But I just wanted to go through the unofficial 17th report in our suite, which is our individual fee earner report. This is included in some of our packages and can also be added on at a later date. And the idea behind this report is that it shows all of the data at an individual level. So you can select a particular fee earner or timekeeper and then see all of their data, all the available data that is of interest to you in one place without having to go through each individual report and select that individual person. And what we can do with this one is that you can either have this as at a management level and you can go through and see how each individual person is performing, or we can actually set it up to restrict the data based on the individual who is accessing Power BI. And so this means that if you did want to give access to each of your fee earners, it does require a Power BI Pro license. But if you did want to do that, then if I was this person, this random Verlata support person, I would come in here and I would only see my own name in this list, and then I would only see my own data as well. And so it allows us to restrict at that level. But this report, you can see here, we've got the fees billed, the fees paid, the time recording, WIP, write-offs, we see against the budget. So this again is drawing through from those KPIs. And you can see all of my individual time recording as well. And then what we include in this report is fees and time breakdowns across the financial year. We include all of the outstanding WIP and debtors for that particular person. We include their individual time recording with a sort of a traffic light system to see how they're going in terms of their budgets on each day. We can see that, with Verlata Sport has bright green there, so reached their day, but they didn't do too well on the Tuesday. And we also include a custom matter activity. So similar to my matter status report I showed earlier, in this one we have your matter activity, but we've broken it down by the matter type. This report is full of drill throughs. We drill through on pretty much every single data point. And so if I wanted to look at the matter activity, I can right click and drill through to my matter list there. If I go back to my fees and time, I can right click on the chargeable time and go to the time card details. Same with my invoices. So I can go through to all of my individual invoices as well. So that's your individual fee earner report. As I said, it's part of some of our packages, but it can also be added on to an existing Viewpoint suite. Finally, that's the Viewpoint setup there. That's part of our subscription packages, but I just want to show you a couple of other custom reports that we've done for clients. Generally speaking, we require you to have at least our basic Viewpoint package before you can add on custom reports. This allows us to cover all of our hosting costs and support. And then we can look at a fixed fee arrangement to build a custom report for you depending on the complexity. But we have a couple of examples here. The task tracker report. So if you do use tasks in Actionstep, we do have a way of getting all of those tasks into our database. And then we can actually build a task dashboard or task tracker report. And so you can see here we've got all the tasks completed, and due. And then it breaks it down by completed, by due, by overdue, gives us a heat map of where all the tasks are and when they're due. It gives all of our assigned tasks and who's got the most tasks assigned to them, and whether or not they're completed or overdue. And things like a list of all of your tasks completed and who's done them. Apparently, blank is very prolific. So you can see that in your task tracker. We do reports like conflict searches. So for example, if I wanted to see where I might have conflicts, this is especially relevant if you've just done a migration or an acquisition where you've brought in another system and you want to look at where there might be conflicts. And so you can see here we've got a list of our contact records against our matter roles. I can filter those as required. If you set up bonuses for users, you can do things like a bonus and budget tracker. And so where we're actually looking at, the people's budgets, how much they've invoiced, how much they've collected, and then what incentive they would then be eligible for. And this incentive, we can set this up however you like in terms of the calculation. If it's a percentage, if it's based on their salary, we can look at building that for you. And then we can also, it's a little bit more complex, but we can look at bringing in data from other data sources as well. So in this case, we can bring in some data from Google Analytics. And you can see here we've got, website visits by different devices and things like that. So we can see how many files are opening versus unique visits to our website or other sorts of web pages. So these are just some examples of our custom reports, but please have a chat to us because there's a lot of different options that are available. All right, so that's the demonstration that I wanted to show you. I just had a question here. I was wondering what the difference is between using a Power BI subscription and the Viewpoint product. Would one choose Viewpoint product over a Power BI? So Viewpoint is actually built on Power BI. So regardless, Viewpoint requires a Power BI Pro license. Power BI is the software that we use, and Viewpoint is the product that is built on Power BI. So essentially, when you're buying a Viewpoint, you are buying Power BI at the same time. But the Viewpoint subscription includes all of your reports as part of it within that setup. So that's sort of how that works. Had another question. What if we have custom data collections in Actionstep? Can you bring those through into the reports? The answer is yes, we can. So I assume when you're referring to these custom data collections within Actionstep. So for example, these due diligence tags here. So I can see type of engagement, I can see a fee estimate, things like that. Yes, we can bring those through. They're not part of our standard Viewpoint setup. And so usually we'll just discuss with you what you want to achieve with these custom data collections. But if it was something as simple as, this type of engagement as a new filter or a column within existing reports, that's a fairly easy setup. And it's something that we would talk with you when we're setting up your suite so that we can add that filter in the initial setup. We can also bring through some other custom data sort of as part of the initial setup. So for example, if you have some other parties, so we do have some standard parties that we include within our filters and columns. But if you have some additional parties, so for example, maybe I wanted to look at the introducer. And so the introducer or the referrer or the referral source or something like that, as long as it's set up as a party on each of the matters, we can bring those through as a filter or a column or a calculation, depending on what you want to do. And one of our more common custom reports that we get asked for is a referral report or an introducer report. You might pay incentives, or you might just want to know what's happening. Yeah, it just depends on what you're after in terms of those custom data. Another question, do I have to use the Actionstep KPIs? I don't really like how they work. So the Actionstep KPIs have been set up by default to come into our reports, but we can draw the budgets or KPIs from other data sources. Generally, what we do is we would set up something like a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, and we'd host that in SharePoint or OneDrive, so it's sort of like a shared location. And then we use that as a data source, and we can then give you as the client access to that spreadsheet so you can update it regularly. And so we have had some other clients who wanted to look at it at more granular levels, like a daily budget. And so they might have gone through and actually filled out every single day of the month. Some have wanted to look just at a higher level. rather than each individual fee earner. So maybe they don't do budgets based on fee earners, but do budgets based on just the whole firm. And so then they wanted to look at that. And some who do things like WIP targets versus their normal billable hour targets, we will bring those through into a spreadsheet as well. We can also add additional groupings in spreadsheets too. So going back to the custom data, if you don't record like teams or a practice area or some sort of other grouping in your custom data, we can actually put that into a spreadsheet as well as a new table, and then draw that in as a data source as a grouping. Those sort of things, it depends on the complexity of it, if we can bring it into the Viewpoint reports, or if we would need to talk to you about a customization or a custom report for that. Okay, so if there are no more questions about the Viewpoint suite itself, I'll just switch back to my slides, and I just want to quickly go through our subscription packages. If you do have any other questions and things like that, I'll answer it, or if there's any that are more specific to your particular situation, we'll contact you directly via email and answer your questions. So in terms of the Viewpoint subscription packages, we have three packages available. We have a basic suite, a standard suite, and a comprehensive suite. It depends upon how big your firm is, and what you're after in terms of your reporting. But we generally recommend the standard suite just purely because it's the best value, and you get 10 reports you can choose from the 16. You get your dashboards, and you'll also get the individual fee earner report, which you can either use, give access to each individual user, or you can just use that at a management level. But if you wanted the full shebang, all of the reports, you can obviously choose the comprehensive. If you just want the basic setup, you can go for the basic. So there are 3 options available. In terms of pricing, we do have a deal just for the webinar, or the end of financial year. Now I'm based in Australia, so my end of financial year is the end of June. So we've created a end of fiscal year, end of financial year deal for the 3 packages, regardless of your size. This is only valid if you sign up by 30th of June 2023. The prices there is in local currency. So if you're based in New Zealand, it'll be in New Zealand dollar. If you're based in the US dollar. If you're based in the UK, it'll be in pounds. So you can see there, $350 per month for the basic suite, $500 per month for the standard suite, and $600 per month for the comprehensive suite. Now, this price doesn't include Power BI Pro licenses. Now, the Power BI Pro licenses are a software license that you'll need to purchase for each individual person that needs to access the reports. Not each individual Actionstep user. This is a whole firm cost for the subscription, and then you just choose who accesses it. And then you just need to pay for those licenses. The licenses are a fixed price. You can find the links online, find the pricing online, but generally speaking, it's $13.70 per user per month for Australia, $15.10 per user per month for New Zealand, £7.50 in the UK, and $9.99 in US dollars. And that's per user per month. But as I said, if you only have like 2 members of your team who need to access reports, you only need 2 licenses. If you want to give it to every fee earner, you'll need to purchase a license for each of them. And obviously you can choose to start small with 1 or 2 licenses and just add them on as you go along, and just let us know who you want to have access to the reports. The Viewpoint subscription, this is a discount on our existing pricing, roughly 20% discount on our existing pricing. And we're also not distinguishing between the amount of data that you have or the size of your firm. So this is a pretty good deal for the Viewpoint subscription if you sign up in the next couple of months. Just to note that if you do currently have the Actionstep data exporter enabled, or if you're looking at getting enabled, the Actionstep usually charges $99 per month to activate that data exporter. As part of a deal we have with Actionstep, that fee is waived. So you are actually saving money on that fee anyway if you go with the Viewpoint subscription. All right, so that's everything I have for my demos and webinar today. You should see a book a demo today button that's popped up on the screen there. If you click on that, that'll go to our meeting booking system where you can actually book in a demo directly with me. If you don't want another demo, or if you just want to get a bit more information, or even just sign up, feel free to get in touch with us on via our website or via Actionstep, and we'll hopefully be able to sort something out for you. So thank you all for attending today. As I said, if you have any other questions, feel free to get in touch with us, and we'll try to answer any other questions that have come up in the chat shortly. Thanks, everyone, and have a lovely week.